Welcome, everybody. It is Election Eve. I am your host, Craig Price, and I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your very important day to cast your vote for the show. We're doing really well here. We're having existential crises all across the country, so I thought instead of watching results, you could take 1/2 hour out of the night and watch us, and hopefully, it'll make your day and evening a little easier. It is the second season, and so we're going to do a couple things a little differently this year. We have a full slate of people, 16 victims. And unlike last season, where we had a little bit of an 8-game season and then we went into the playoffs, we are starting off with the playoffs from day one. So this is game one of the playoffs, and I've decided to split people up into 2 categories. So we have 2 separate leagues. And you can go to Challenge and follow along with the results. The ballots have been cast, so you cannot fill out your bracket anymore. We've got 5 people vying for it. But let's be introduced to you, because the Silverado fire canceled my preview show as I was evacuated and could not get to a good Wi-Fi connection. But we've got the veterans, people who have been on the show multiple times, versus newbies. They've either been on once and did not do very well, or they've never been on the show before, so this is some second chances for some. But of course, it all starts and ends with the reigning champion of Randy Redacted from the Cult 45 podcast. He did an amazing job. He is an innate talent, and he is the person to beat. That's why he's on tonight's shows, because he is the first and deserves all the accolades we could possibly give for season 1. Of course, we've got Valerie Cameron coming back from the Multiplane podcast. Tonight's guest, also from Fanboy Planet, Derek McCaw. Gaggle of Geeks, Patrick Beatty, who was fighting to the very bitter end with Randy. Tracy Magnum from Movies That Make Us, always a good guest, and he's really good caster. Followed by Steve Condrick from Everything I Learned from Movies. Rob Irvin from the Clubhouse podcast, and our podcast, the Matinee Heroes Disney File, Kerry Gordon from the MSR cast. They will be going up against themselves in their own little bracket, because what I want to do is make sure someone who never played before gets to the finals. So we have a whole league of newbies, starting off with Jen Rohn from the Clubhouse podcast, Liz Cerner from the Nerdy Bitches. We got Chaz Evans from the Over and Under Artist Exposed podcast. He's also a co-host of Gaggle of Geeks with Patrick Beatty. We've got Alex Barnhill from the Vocal Now Podcast Network, and he's not the only entire network representative. We have people representing entire networks here. Ben Jones, an old high school friend of mine who runs the Big Water Brewery. So hopefully by the end of this, we'll have a beer sponsor. Wouldn't that be nice? Always be friends with people who make beer. Of course, we have Jake Dietz from the Stolen Droids Network. Joey Jones, who is on Twitch as Son of a Gundam. Also, he was with the Dungeon Files podcast that I did for a little bit until my Tabashi was killed. Yes, D&D permadeath. And finally, Richard Jensen from the Celtic Ray Filmworks, who has been on the show before but didn't do so well. He did a theme and he got bit in the butt. But tonight we have game 1 of the new season, and this is where we get the great new. We're going to continue with the playoff music. In this corner, reigning champion, Randy Redacted, because he thinks the government is spying on him. And made in the shade, the cool Fanboy Planet, Derek McCaw. Welcome to the game, guys. How are you? How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
I'm trying to push it live. My computer's so slow. It's like I want to do it, but I won't.
We know you do. We know.
So,
we're here for it.
There he is. Yeah. There he is.
So we will start with the reigning champion. Randy, how you been, man?
I am surviving That's what I've been telling people every single time they ask me this question. I'm really kind of sick of it. I'm sick of that question. Like, how are you doing? How's everything going? How's it hanging?
I just meant in the last couple days because we.
No, just in general, because I'm triggered, bro. I'm triggered. I feel like I'm fine.
Well, you were recently on the show to do Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah,
So you finished up Matinee Villains Month with us, and so I wanted to thank you for that. Not a fan, though, were you?
I'm to be fair, I feel like we're going to do all the Nightmare on Elm Street series now for the Cult 45 podcast, but I honestly just cannot get into this series. I don't know what it is. It took me a while to get into the Friday the 13th series, but I'm sure there's something. Like we just did the recording for Dream Warriors, so it's coming, and it's like, and it's not bad.
Okay, I got you. But I do want to thank you for coming on, and it was you and me versus Alan, and he almost quit the show.
Yeah, I was like, but it was not fun. I was like,
no, it was not fun for him because we were just saying it's stupid, and we continue to say that.
Yeah,
but we have coming back the newly married Derek McCaw. Congratulations, Derek.
Thank you, Greg.
How many days has it been?
This would be 18 days.
18 days. Well, I've been married 18 years, so it's exactly the same thing. We exactly have the same feelings and the same perspective. So, wow. I think I almost caused you to sneeze.
A little sneeze happened. Yep. I'm allergic to talking about it.
You're allergic to bullshit. I get you. I got it.
You told me not to swear.
What? I know. Anyway. I can swear. It's my show.
Oh, that's okay.
No, I made a mistake. I'm not supposed to swear. I got you. But what's been going on at Fanboy Planet? Because I know that early in September I was on some kind of video, and
yeah, I've been continuing those Fanboy Planet team ups, trying to find creators in particular that run comics podcasts. So I've been doing live streams with interviews with comics creators that also have podcasts as the excuse to be a team up. We have, I think, fixed the coding problem so that we'll be going back to our regular podcast as well, audio-wise. And yeah, coming back into writing articles and reviews and covering news as we can. So it's happening again. I call it, this is now kind of like a rebirth after a couple of months of difficulty. So we're back in the game.
So it's like a Fanboy Planet with a moon.
Yes, that's probably.
It's all right. Well, let's get to the game. And the rules are still the same as they've always been. Basically, we start off with, I give you an actor, and then you give me a replacement for that actor. The best choice gets a point. Now, I have also selected all 16 games in advance already. So I have recast all 16 games that we're going to do. And if you pick one of mine, you get an extra point. So that's the Craig Secret selection. So not only do you want to cast the best person, you want to try to get the best person that Craig might want. Sometimes that's not the same because we don't have all the same judges. Obviously, the person with the most point win. Today's additional judges, so there's been other people. So that's why my selection may not be the best choice, because if I get overruled, we've got Brendan Agnew, who's going to be coming on to talk 42 in a couple weeks, and Zaki Hassan, who has been on several times, and we hope to have him back on as quickly as we can. He was supposed to do our 200th episode, but scheduling went through, but he was still able to help with the judging. Now, if there is a tie, I will ask you on the spot to give me a double feature, and I alone will pick who I think is the best double feature. And that's where it's all spontaneous. I don't know what your double features are, so there's not going to be any images of them, so I will have to guess, and you'll have to defend your double feature, and I will pick whoever's best. But let's hope we don't get to a tiebreaker, because that means I have all the pressure.
That's fair. But
it's election eve. Unlike last year, where we kept constantly running into holidays and not putting movies up with it, since it's election eve, I wanted to put on the best president that ever existed. And before we do that, our 200th episode of Citizen Kane is coming out this Saturday. You can go to matineeheroes.com to subscribe to the podcast. You can also go to matineeheroes.com/castoff to subscribe to this video stream. There's several options available, but let's get to the best president that ever lived, Harrison Ford as James Marshall. I think we all can agree, Democrat, Republican, Green Party, Libertarians, pacifists, people who don't vote. We'd all want to have Harrison Ford as our president. He is awesome. He is the whole reason we do Matinee Heroes. He is the quintessential matinee hero. Mm. Yeah. So, Randy, because you have won previously and you're defending you get to go first. Who do you have playing President James Marshall?
So for this one, I was just like, I just trying to find the modern day version of Indiana Jones. And I was like, don't think we have one of those. But because in the movie, he doesn't like show up as like, I'm John Wick, President John Wick. But he kind of like, he molds himself into it. And it's like, I need someone who can kind of play, who's a really good actor who can kind of play soft, but then move on to being like total badass. So I went with Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Absolutely. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's awesome. I still tell everybody that he should have been James Jonah Jameson in the new Spider-Man movies, but that's just me. He was the comedian in Watchmen. Mm-hmm. He basically replaced Powers Booth because he kind of looks like Powers Booth from Red Dawn. He is Negan in The Walking Dead. I think this is a really solid pick for president. He looks the part.
Yeah, that was what I was hoping for. It's like, he looks presidential, and I feel like he could definitely like just beat the crap out of whoever I pick for the bad guy. So it's like, yeah, it'll work.
All right. Well, then we move on to Derek. Derek, that's a tough one to go with because he's a very popular television star now who's got some chops. He's also Thomas Wayne in a couple Batman things.
And may yet be again. You know, that's still rumored. So I went with something a little more classic because I went with Gregory Peck because I thought who better to be the president that we would want within Atticus Finch, and that's really what I was drawing from. Yes, you can see there have been several roles in which he has been very action-oriented for the time. In particular, there is that turn in To Kill a Mockingbird in which Scout discovers that her father is actually a badass when the rabid dog is coming down the street, and it turns out that he's an expert marksman. So he's slow to anger, and slow to action, but once he is, you have to look out for him. So, and plus, I think there's just the nobility. I want to see, like Harrison Ford, a president that we could all get behind.
Well, and also, like Harrison Ford, he was in a Navarone movie because Harrison Ford was in Force 10 from Navarone. So, yeah. Well, Randy picked Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Derek went with Gregory Peck. I was looking for like a Bryan Cranston type, with his hair, not. So I was so worried you guys were gonna pick Robert Downey Jr. for some odd reason. No. In fact, the judges decided Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Randy gets the point.
Yes, good start.
All right, so now we move on to Igor Korshunov. It's Gary Oldman. That's who it is.
It's Gary Oldman.
Let's stop beating around the bush. It's Gary Oldman playing some kind of villain, which he's fantastic at. But we're going to start with you, Derek. Who do you got for?
I went for a generic Eastern European accent and actor who was better than most of his career allowed him to be. And that would be Bela Lugosi, the original Dracula. If you've seen some of the other films, especially in the early 30s, before he became, as they say, Plan 9, everybody remembers that. You know, that's bad. But The Black Cat, if you have not seen that with Boris Karloff, trippy movie. And he is such a complicated character in a way that Dracula is not, I felt like he is really one of the underrated actors of classic Hollywood, and it'd be cool to see him in that role. And he can be dangerous. He's also taller than he looked. So
No,
I want the keys to the Air Force One.
yes.
So,
I'm
Randy,
not even. I'm sweating again. Why am I sweating?
because
why
this is what
hard?
champions do. They work.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm looking at the list so far. I'm just like, man, I would have picked that too if I hadn't thought about this. But
At least I can undercut your confidence.
that's fair. That's fair. I was just like, I don't know about this. But okay, so for my guy, I was like, okay, I couldn't find the Indiana Jones, but I can find a modern day Gary Oldman, someone who could play almost anybody and anyone. And like, Gary Oldman's been so many things: hero, villain, insane man. And so I went, because I was thinking about it, I went with James McAvoy because of Split. I was like, yes, this is my guy. The guy he literally played like 18 different people in that movie. And I believe that he was 18 different people. So yes.
Yes, I'm going to say of the two we've got here, a proven. Now, I'm not going to say that Bela Lugosi is not a good actor. I'm just going to say that James McAvoy is a proven better actor because he wasn't typecast. I mean, he's in Sherlock Gnomes, for God's sakes. You can't get much better than that. That's the pinnacle of your success. So
plus,
Derek,
like, he's played such such a gnarly villain in like Filth. I was like, oh, this is my guy right here.
So Derek goes real old school. He's still got Halloween on his mind. Goes with
True.
Bela Lugosi. You go with James McAvoy. I was thinking of a Tom Hardy type because Tom Hardy's always a bad guy.
Right there.
And the difference is I think Tom Hardy speaks more like Bela Lugosi sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But the judges, James McAvoy. So Randy, back to back. He is once again on the winning train. So this is not an unusual position for you, Randy.
Nope. It's not over till it's over. And normally when I do this, I like my games to be 14-0. It's like, especially if I'm playing.
Well,
I don't like those close games.
no, this is not going to get. This is going to be a nail biter if we keep going here. But because I have faith in Derek. Because now we get to probably the best actor next to Gary Oldman. I think Glenn Close is a better actor than Gary Oldman, but the best actor in the whole thing here, and that is Glenn Close's Vice President Catherine Bennett. So, Randy, who do you have playing the Vice President?
Okay, so to be fair, I picked this one out of a hat. So I'm just like, I didn't really give it a lot of thought, and I probably should have done that now that I thought about it.
Is this the one that you thought I wouldn't like?
Not so much. Not this one. But I went with Jennifer Connelly, just because I was like, yeah, she looks about the part. She's played a nice, she has that kind of stern and womanly kind of, I'm in charge here kind of thing. And I was like, I could buy this. Yeah.
Well, anybody, so you're too old, you're not old enough for this, Randy, but I'm sure for Derek and myself, we know Jennifer Connelly as initiating a lot of feelings in weird places in the 80s.
Shamefully, it's true. Yes.
Yes. When she was in Labyrinth and when she was in, Career Opportunities and things like that. But then,
I saw The Rocketeer. So
yeah, The Rocketeer. But then she was in Requiem for a Dream, A Beautiful Mind. She has turned into a outstanding actress. So I think this is a very good, and yes, she does look the part. I went and found a picture that made her look very presidential. But that leaves Derek. So Derek, what do you've got going on for our vice president?
A little bit of perhaps projecting a wish fulfillment in that I chose Kerry Washington as the vice president, an excellent actress, and certainly can be stern, no nonsense, can take that. And I, again, I'm projecting that's what I wish our situation would be.
And I like you using words that are projecting. It's just like the election tonight. All the words we're going to hear. I'm hoping for. I'm projecting a win.
Every time you hear the word ballot, take a drink.
That's right. Well, I mean, Kerry Washington's fantastic too. This one was was really close because we've got Jennifer Connelly, who has been good for a long time. Kerry Washington, who's somewhat new to the scene, but has knocked it out of the park, everything she's done. I went with good old-fashioned Viola Davis because she's got gravitas and awesomeness wrapped into one. But we went with Kerry Washington for Derek's first point. All right.
Even looking at my list, I'm like, yeah, I would have gone with her too.
Well, Derek, that leaves us heading over to And now this is going to be bad because my notes have been washed up. We've got First Lady Grace Marshall. So we got the First Lady, and basically we need someone who can scream and cry a lot.
Yep.
And so Derek, who do you have playing the First Lady to Gregory Peck?
Well, I'll admit that I connected this a little bit to the role of the daughter as well. I went with an actress who can do more than scream and cry a lot. I would think if we're recasting, it might get rewritten a little bit, but I went with Amy Adams because I think she's beautiful, smart, sensitive, and has an incredible range as well.
Well, she's been nominated 6 times, so she's really good. I think she's a really good girl next door type. Especially when you see her like in the Muppets. I mean, I never saw Psycho Beach Party. I threw that in there for you, Derek. I'm sure that's something you've seen.
I am a huge Charles Busch fan. Yes, I have seen Psycho Beach Party, but I forgot she was in it.
Okay. So this is the kind of person you're up against, Randy. He has seen Psycho Beach Party. Have you seen Psycho Beach Party?
I haven't even heard of Psycho Beach Party, and that's making me sad now.
It's a treat. You need to watch it. Yeah.
Okay. Adding it to the list.
So, Randy, who do you have playing the First Lady?
Okay. So I did try to find someone I knew who could cry and scream. And because that's what I remember most about her, the character in the movie. I went and I've seen her play like the mom role like 14 different times already. So I'm like, yeah, this will work. I went with Rose Byrne.
Yep.
How you say that?
That's right. That's right. Rose Byrne, she's basically girl next door, Aussie version.
Yes.
She's great in Bridesmaids, really does well. She was Moira McTaggart. This is by memory, so this is my fanboy planet. This is my comic nerd coming through from X-Men First Class. And, she's been in other things. She's one of those that girls.
Yep. She's like, hey, I've seen her before doing that thing. Mm-hmm. She's also really funny when she wants to be. So I was like,
she was great in Get Him to the Greek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's been in one of those always in a comedy. Amy Adams seems to be always in a drama. Rose Byrne does the same exact thing, but always in a comedy.
Yeah.
So I think they're both really well.
Don't forget Enchanted. So
well, it's too late now. The votes are in. You can't ask for.
What about Insidious? That's definitely not a comedy.
Well, it's a horror movie, so it's not completely straight and narrow.
That's true.
I was looking for a Gina Torres because I've been watching Hannibal, and and I keep forgetting how awesome Gina Torres is, and I think she would make an awesome First Lady. She'd make a great president too. The votes came in. Rose Byrne won this one, so it's 3-1. With you only got looks like this 3 points. There's a total of 6 points on the board, possibly. If for some reason Derek gets every guess I get, that would give him 6 points. So this is still well within reach.
Like I said, it's not over till it's over.
Now this is first daughter Alice Marshall. Now normally we don't do kids.
Yeah,
but
that's what really made me like, what?
But she's a teenager in this and plays a very important part. And I believe there's enough teenage actresses or actors out there now that we can find somebody without everyone going, who? If she was supposed to be 5 or 6 years old, I would go, no, forget it, because you can't find you can grab those off the street, which I don't recommend. Don't grab 5 or 6-year-old kids off the street.
You leave that for the government to do.
That's right. They're the ones that's supposed to be separating families. So, Randy, who do you have playing the first daughter?
This is the one I wasn't like, every time there's always a weak person, and I'm just like, this might work, right? And I'm gonna go with a stab at her name at Ariana Greenblatt.
Yeah, Ariana Greenblatt. Yeah,
nailed it. Yay.
She is unknown to me until you sent her to across my desk in my email. She is a legitimate Disney kid, which means she's only been in basically, except for Love and Monsters, which just came out on Netflix. Every single thing here, Avengers, Stuck in the Middle, The One and Only Ivan, is a Disney property.
I was like, this is my gal, because she was young Gamora for like that one scene, and I was just like,
yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's the guy, right? She was like, She had like 2 good lines.
Yeah, she really looked scared next to that big Josh Brolin in his weird outfit.
And that's all I needed was someone who looked scared.
She had to stand next to James Brolin in spandex. She deserves every accolade we can give her.
Yep.
Derek, who do you got?
I was somewhat influenced by thinking that it was a legitimate family resemblance, which Hollywood doesn't do very often, or often enough for me. And I went with Sophia Lillis, who was Beverly in It Chapter 1, and I guess It Chapter 2 as well. You roll back the years as she was a child actor. And yes, Nancy Drew, and and I just saw her in Gretel and Hansel. So
that's not out yet, right?
I'm sorry, what?
That's not out yet, is it?
It came out. It was just a home video release.
Well, I know that you, being a film critic, have access to early things sometimes, so I thought maybe you had seen it because.
Not as much as I used to. So yeah, but I paid for it. I rented it.
I paid good money for it.
Well,
and he sounds bitter.
It was not as great as I wanted it to be, but we'll have that conversation some other time. So
no,
anyway, that's my choice.
So you guys kind of went with 2 different directions. Randy went very young because he was going for the Gamora. That's how I kind of figured he was going, and that's like 5 or 6, and this is more of a teenager. So we got Ariana Greenblatt versus Sophia Lillis. I went with Zendaya because why wouldn't you? Bryan Cranston and Gina Davis get together, you're going to get Zendaya.
Yeah, that's fair.
And she's a really good actress, but the votes came in and Sophia Lillis gets it. So Derek is catching up. He's only down by 1.
Okay, it's possible.
It is definitely possible. There's 4 potential points on the board, so you could still be a blow away either one of you. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find a good picture of Paul Guilfoyle in Air Force One, which is a shame because I've met him. He's a very nice guy, and he's got a major part in it as Lloyd Shepard. He is the chief of staff. So this is the best crappy picture I could find. And so, Derek, who do you have as the chief of staff for Gregory Peck?
I reached back into the 60s as well for that, but a little later than Peck's heyday, and I went with Rod Steiger because I thought he is he can play that seen it all bureaucrat, and the guy that you know can handle whatever comes his way. Yeah, that's a younger picture that I was picturing, but yeah.
Well, I picked this one out because I look at him; he looks like Paul Guilfoyle.
Yeah,
well, I'll take that then. Okay, good.
But Rod Steiger, a lot of us know him without hair. I think that's the one we most is bald, and I call him being a real man because he's one of these. He's always yelling and kind of tough, and so I tried to spread it out for you. So hopefully this was the person you were looking when you thought of it. This was the picture.
Yes.
All right. Randy, chief of staff. Nothing like bureaucracy in a movie to really get you going.
Yeah, it does, right? I vaguely try to remember what the chief of staff did in this movie, besides get shot and not do anything. So,
isn't that what most people did in this movie?
Yeah, pretty much. So I went with here we go. Try one more time. Bokeem Woodbine.
Bokeem Woodbine, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a K.
It's a K. I tried.
He's Dave Chappelle's body double. He's amazing. I just saw him in Overlord. My wife and I watched it.
Was intense.
Well, that's the thing. If you know me or my wife, you know that Overlord is not a movie we would watch. So my wife started watching it, and I asked her why, and she's like, "Oh, because it's got J.J. Abrams directed it." And I'm like, "No, it's J.J. Abrams Presents." And next thing you know, we see guts and zombies, and spoiler alert: Woodbine explodes in a very disgusting way. But he is amazing in Fargo. If you saw him in the TV series Fargo, he's going to be in Ghostbusters Afterlife. He's great. So this was of all of them, this was the one that went down to the wire because I had in our discussions, this was the one we couldn't quite figure out who it should be. We have Rod Steiger. We've got Bokeem Woodbine. I was thinking of a Stanley Tucci type, a go-to practical guy. And Derek ties it up with Rod Steiger.
I've never come this close before. This is fantastic.
Well, that leaves us with William H. Macy as Major Norman. I believe this is his only action movie where he's actually where he's got a gun and he's shooting things.
Yeah,
he's usually the guy that's like the accountant or the bureaucrat or something that gets involved in the action, but he's not really here. Look at him. He's got a gun. He fights people. He's a tough guy.
What about Jurassic Park 4?
Wasn't he wasn't he an administrator or something?
I thought he was just like an accountant.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Mystery Man. He was the shoveler.
Mystery Man, the shoveler. Yes.
Shovels well.
There
Right.
you go.
I forgot. And Shameless.
So, Randy, this is the last one. It's a tie. So it could be all over here.
Right off the bat. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is why I put all the pressure on you at first, because it could be the first night our champion could be gone and everybody can take a big sigh of relief for the next 16 games.
That's no fun.
So who do you have playing Major Norman?
Okay, so William H. Macy is like a really good actor who could play like all kinds of roles, and I needed a kind of an actual good character actor, and I went with Walton Goggins. Did they say his name? Hopefully.
Yeah, that's right. Walton Goggins. He is the Appalachian ass kicker if he was a wrestler. He's awesome. He was in Justified. That's where most people saw him. Then he was also in The Hateful Eight. He was the main bad guy in both Ant-Man and the Wasp and Tomb Raider. But he is great in whatever he does.
Oh yeah.
What was the religious show on HBO with Danny McBride?
Oh,
and John Goodman.
I can't remember the title, but he's currently got a sitcom called The Unicorn.
Yep.
Yeah, he's on The Unicorn.
He's also got a
remember his cameo on the Community. So.
Community, yeah.
Yeah, he's also got a 30-minute weird thing on Hulu where he plays a 70s Marlboro Man car dealer thing. It's really weird.
He's in everything.
But he's really good. Did you meet him when he came to Houston for Comicpalooza?
I did not. I think we just did Django Unchained. Just then, like, hey, he's in this movie too, and I was like, yeah.
That was the one thing I did admit. I wanted to get him. He was on my list of people to interview, and it did not happen. He's great. I think that's a great pick. Derek.
I too wanted to get kind of an everyman that's a little quirky, because I think that I saw it flash.
Yeah.
That that's the Bill Macy thing too. Is I think that he's an everyman, but there's something just a little off. And so I went with Steve Buscemi, who has proven that he can be frightening, that he is actually an incredibly great person in real life. He was a first responder, 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was a fireman for a while.
He's really a hero. I would believe him as a major, as the chief. So absolutely, I just think he's fantastic.
I think he's fantastic too. I don't like the fact that people say I look like him because it makes me feel ugly. But and I get them out of order, so I'm gonna have to go through this again. So we've got Walton Goggins, we've got Steve Buscemi. I was looking for a David Strathairn type.
Yeah, I can see that,
because he's played a lot of these military types. That one's no big deal. So it's a tie. Nobody got the bonus point, which means someone is going to win. Is it going to be Randy, reigning champion? Is it going to be Upstart, Derek McCaw? Is this going to be a miracle of epic proportions, or is this going to be Tom Brady business as usual?
The suspense is killing me. I hope it'll last.
Business as usual.
Yeah, status quo. Status quo.
Status quo.
Well, it is with both pride and disappointment that I have to say, Derek, you do not win. Randy has retained his championship once again, as Walton Goggins has become Major Norman. So, Randy, congratulations. You're back into your normal, everyday spot. You are today's winner. So, what is your final thought?
Hey, guys, go check out Brendan on Twitch. He's going to be showing up in about 30 minutes. It's going to be awesome.
Okay. There you go. Twitch what? Cult 45.
Twitch.com/Cult45.
Okay, there you go.
Cult 45 podcast.
You can't assume we know because a lot of people don't know you.
Cult 45.
All right, Cult 45 podcast. Well, congratulations, Randy. Once again, great job. Derek did a great job as well. Let's see what's happening next week. Next week, the newbies take over. And we've got returning, I would say returning champion, but Richard Jensen, who hopefully he does not go the theme route. He did a theme route and was routed mercilessly.
No themes.
Versus Joey Jones. And the movie they're going to do, well, since tonight's election night, I figure the next week people are going to be either extremely happy or extremely bad. And so I'm going with Suicide Squad as a theme because I think a lot of us are going to try to make sure we live through the week to see Suicide Squad. So next week, Suicide Squad live Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. This is a great cast with Will Smith. Not a great movie, but I think it fits the theme. So if you liked what you saw, follow us at Matinee Heroes on Twitter. Twitch.tv/Matinee Heroes. You can go to the Facebook group. And, of course, you go to matineeheroes.com/castoff. That'll give you the really garbled, weird URL link to YouTube to make it easier to subscribe. So, on behalf of tonight's guests, and I really want to thank them for coming on. And, Derek, again, you're so close. You did a great job. I really appreciate you being here for
Just wait till season 3.
Well, we'll see if you come back.
We'll see if you're allowed back.
On behalf of Randy and of Cult 45 Podcast and Derek of Fanboy Planet, I am your host, Craig Price, and this has been Cast Off. Thanks, guys.